All right, Chris. Well, I mean, I guess by default and due to rage by Cody Rhodes, we have a number one contender in Drew McIntyre for Saturday night's
Yep.
main event. They needed a match. It's kind of Drew's turn in a lot of ways, both as a character, just in sort of in real life. Jacob Fatu, some reports came out that he would be missing extended ring time due to a mysterious out of ring injury. Then Drew McIntyre said the match is still on without denying he was injured. So you figured, okay, he's good. Jacob's either the reports were wrong, which is unlikely, or Jacob's good enough to be able to do an angle. And he took an off-camera beatdown, cut a promo earlier with Cody, and now Drew came to the ring, wanted to be granted by default number one contendership, and Cody said, "No way." What'd you think of how they handled that? We didn't get Fatu and Drew. We got some other things to talk about, and I think maybe I'm curious if they were planned ahead or they were like make good idea, especially
Right.
the Sami Zayn thing. Like, oh, well, we can't give him this, so we'll give him this. We got an intense brawl with Cody in a suit, or at least dress pants and a dress shirt
Right.
and dress shoes. A pretty intense finish to everything. What'd you think?
Yeah. It's wild. First, I've never seen a vest be weaponized like that, right? I mean, Cody used the vest into Drew's face. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah,
If there was ever going to be a wrestling match where somebody was in a three-piece suit, have it play out like that. I was surprised by the inclusion of the teeth in the pool of blood under Jacob Fatu. I thought that was a great visual. I mean, it really played out that something bad happened, right?
yeah.
Typically, we just get the scaffolding or whatever the piece of furniture is that's fallen. They writhe about, but this it made it seem like it was serious. I'll be interested to see how it plays out. I've got some guesses on what kind of vipers may be laying in wait. But that's for another time. I thought it was super fun tonight. And when you read my hit and miss, there's not going to be any misses tonight. This was an all hit in my book.
Is this a better way for Cody to get or is this a weak way for Drew to get a title shot? Would it have been better to actually beat Jacob Fatu in the sense that, and I don't know what they had planned for the finish.
Yeah.
So maybe it would have been weak anyway if they were going to do some sort of angle with Fatu. But I mean, it'd been better for Drew to get a win over Jacob Fatu, but I don't know
Yeah.
that that's what they would have planned. I mean, I think Drew would have won one way or the other. So your thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
Hearing the reports about him being injurious going into the match, injured, so to speak, however it was, uh, I thought they were going to do some kind of 5-second beatdown, right?
Mm-hmm.
Establish Drew as this crazy dominant force coming into the match with Cody. Something about WrestlePalooza reignited it in him. But obviously, whatever it was with Jacob Fatu prevented that. So yes, I'm with you. I would have liked to have seen Drew get a definitive win to be the number one contender, and if not a definitive clean win over Jacob, at least a win in a match over Jacob. Yeah. So I am with you there. I would have liked to have seen that.
Yeah, I think Cody. We'll get into speculation on what happened. I'll add this, by the way, just real quick before I forget. Jack Reeve in the chat says, for those of us on Netflix, during the break during the commercial break while Cody and Drew brawling was pretty intense and believable. And that was a really good
Yeah.
brawl. And yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, it's a main event. They're not trying to sell pay-per-view on it. Drew McIntyre's an established star. People want to see this match. It was incredibly intense. So I think Drew will be fine, especially because I don't think they were going to give Drew, if Jacob was healthy, a clean win over Jacob Fatu. So
Right.
it's not like in that sense that Drew lost something. And so we have that. You said you have a suspicion on the culprit for Jacob Fatu. Tell me about that.
Well, I mean, Randy Orton's been eyeing the prize, right? He has been every chance he's gotten to hold it, it's lingered in his hands. And I mean, whether we're reading into it, things are too much or not. I noticed that Cody did some suspicious sort of arm movements and lurching uh, with his taunting tonight that I felt was echoing something. Now that could be reading far too much into that, but I'm interested to see if they go with Randy Orton this time as being the one trying to get a shot. They've been teasing it. but it may not be time for that.
Yeah, Goodfella1422 says in the chat, enjoyed the show except the main event. I would have liked to see a proper contender match. Who attacked Fatu? Drew, maybe Randy. Drew denied it. I believe he didn't do it.
Yeah.
I think Drew, his character just wants to beat Jacob Fatu in the ring. He would have weakened him. I don't think, maybe, but I don't know. I mean, he doesn't seem like the type of heel who would do that, and I think he's believable in denying it. I think Orton's a good theory, just in terms of, Orton's history, but the chat has speculation. Omar W76 says Cody attacked Fatu. Goodfella says, yeah, Cody trying to avoid Fatu would be a fun angle. So Cody's scared of facing Fatu. Let's take him out. Laps fan says, yeah, Cody heel turn incoming, even if he doesn't lose the title. The dude dresses like a heel 90% of the time anyway, and he has the right tone to talk down to the crowd. Now, what a convenient way if they're trying to get there. And I'm not endorsing this or about, vouching for it being something I'm, thinking is likely at this point, but it's fun to talk about. I'm not ruling it out. It would be a really interesting way if the Fatu injury was unexpected, not some planned surgery or something, to say, oh, let's have a cliffhanger. Who attacked somebody behind the scenes off camera? WWE's done that before. It can make some good TV. And if that did get revealed to be Cody down the line somehow, some way, that'd be amazing. Don't want to spend a lot of time on it because I don't think it's obviously imminent, because that would be Jacob Fatu was awake enough where he would know who attacked him if it wasn't an attack from behind. So I think we have to assume it's an attack from behind, or he's going to reveal who it was. Anyone else come to mind? Because it doesn't have to be related to Cody. It could just be somebody who's got it out for Fatu.
So I'm not sold on it being Cody. I'm the smirk was an entertaining sort of like, that would be kind of fun from like a Jerry Springer trash TV perspective, but not really what we want out of Cody. I'm really struggling to come up with who they're going to slot in to be somebody on the level of Jacob Fatu, of who he could be replacing. Other big players, I mean, we know it's not going to be someone cheap like The Miz, who was messing around tonight.
Right.
He and Carmelo Hayes are locked in. So we've got no other big players. Priest and Aleister Black are in their feud together. So I'm trying to think of main eventers who it would be, and I'm coming up with nobody.
Chad, help us out. I mean, like Solo's crew is there, but they're preoccupied with other things. So anyway, it's intriguing. If Fatu's gonna be out a long time, they aren't gonna pay that off anytime soon. At some point they ought to. But hey, there are unsolved mysteries in the world, and they could just say we never found out and go from there. But it's usually the backstage is busy enough. Somebody should have seen it. Anyway,
and because they definitely didn't have security cameras right there.
Exactly.
God,
All right, let's pause and introduce ourselves in the show, and then we'll get on to other topics on the from the show, maybe some follow-up too on Cody and Drew. This is Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show for Friday, October 17th, 2025. I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, editor, publisher, and founder of the Pro Wrestling Torch weekly newsletter and the website PWTorch.com. I always like to show this off. Here's a paper copy of the latest issue covering Crown Jewel. We got a roundtable reviews from the staff. Whoops, on this side. Exclusive reviews of the event. Greg Parks writing, think about, TNA Bound for Glory on his page 10 column that anchors page 10 every week. So good stuff in there. It's a VIP benefit to get access to the PDF and all text version of the newsletter. We invite everybody to go VIP, support us, and get a lot in return for your subscription dollars. VIP membership details at pwtorch.com/govip. Also, I host various podcasts, including not only am I doing a live SmackDown post show tonight, but earlier I recorded a AEW Wrestle Dream pay-per-view preview with PWTorch contributor Eric Kroll, and we talked for over an hour about the event, previewed it, also got his thoughts on one of his favorite wrestlers, Kota Ibushi, going down. We analyzed and reacted to that situation. And then also after that is a Tony Khan Media Q&A. So if you downloaded this show, by now on our Blue Logo show, the Wade Keller podcast, this is Wade Keller Post Show, the Red Logo show, on the Blue Logo show, the Wade Keller podcast, that show should be available for you. So if you're an AEW fan, you want to hear us preview the event, Eric and I thoroughly went through it, starting with the two big matches, Darby and Mox, and the Hangman Joe match. So check that out. 2 new shows tonight on both feeds. And also search PWTorch for the PWTorch Daily Cast feed. Always a great mix of content there. I believe the All Elite Conversation Club is with Joel and Greg is going up tonight. So Yeah, subscribe to all that. It's free. Or go VIP, get them all on your VIP feed, split them up into custom feeds, and you get the versions without the commercial breaks, which is really nice. But we are live on YouTube, on the PWTorch YouTube channel. After Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown, Brandon LeClaire will be live tomorrow night late after AEW Wrestle Dream. So check us out if you are on the YouTube side of things live. Otherwise, look for that post show to drop late Saturday night on the PWTorch Daily Cast feed. But all that's free. Check it out. My co-host today is Chris Adams, a PWTorch contributor. Chris, good to have you back. We're going to be watching this beard grow.
Yeah, dude, nonstop, total nonstop action, right? Yeah, there's no end date on the beard. It's coming to life. I don't know if that disqualifies me from claiming to be the gentleman Chris Adams any longer. I'm entering my my Bryan Danielson phase, right?
I'm trying to think if the gentleman ever had a beard.
Well,
gentleman Chris Adams, if he grew a beard ever. I don't have an image of that in my mind.
Well,
yeah,
I'm breaking new ground here. So the gentleman Chris Adams, along with his beard, writes the SmackDown Hits and Misses column, as well as does the VIP exclusive show Catching the Culture with Conscious Kurt Cadet, aka Kurt GPT. We have our brand new episode, which was relaunched last week, and we are set to record our next one this week. It's always fun when we talk about movies, we talk about historical matches or trends in wrestling, and we try to talk about current events as well, and to see if they're catching the culture. We have a great time, and I always learn something because I'm doing it with Kurt, so I promise that any listener will learn something too. Kurt's an awesome guy. Love
you two together. We have so many people on the team, on the podcast side of things, who love talking movies. I still think we should come up with some sort of side movie review podcast, which would be fun for people who are part of our community here with the Torch and hear us talk about wrestling. It'd be fun to have something a little more formal and not just kind of, well, I mean, if it's a format of a show like you guys, it works. But like, just hey, here's a new movie that's out, or here's my list and whatever. It could be kind of fun to do something on the side. So yeah, we'll bat that around. Let us know. Encourage us. Remind us if we don't do something like that. I know Brandon LeClaire's a huge movie buff. Tom Stelp and Kelly Wells talk movies, more. All right. So we're going to talk SmackDown here, though. And we've got an email inbox that's open if you're watching us live. If you're not watching us live, and that's normally not part of your schedule, but you listen to us on the audio-only podcast side of things, which is where most of you are, contribute to the show. You don't have to be live in the chat to do it. Email us. If you do watch the shows live but can't watch our post-show live, that's the way to do it. WadeKellerPodcast@gmail.com. We do have the live chat going right now, though. And so if you are watching us on YouTube, join in. It's a great community, friendly environment, and really good people there with smart perspectives on wrestling. And we will continue to put their comments on the screen, and we'll always read them for everybody on the audio-only podcast side of things. And then the other way to join us is via video call. If you want to be a video caller, check out my SmackDown report tonight at PWTorch, VIP.com. And in my SmackDown report, there's a link, and you can be a live caller. All right. I think that's enough plugs. Covers the business we needed to. So let's get back to SmackDown. What did you make anything? I'm going to do a little bit more on Cody before we switch to Sami Zayn and Ilya Dragunov. Did you make anything of how Cody reacted to Jacob Fatu backstage? I mean, if Fatu's going to be out an extended period of time and Cody's fighting Drew, I don't think we should read into it, but anytime you see two people who aren't interacting a lot or ever in the past, it's fun to see, and I think it's often worth reading into. Like, oh, is there something going on here? Did you see anything there that intrigued you about how Cody reacted to Jacob?
I saw it as two people from vastly different worlds having a moment of respect between one another. That's what I saw, right?
Yeah.
I didn't read anything. I thought it was a cool moment of, hey, all right.
Yep.
We'll see each other when we see each other. Yeah.
Yep. I think that's I bring it up only because people in the chat are like, I think Cody attacked Jacobs. I'm like, well, did I miss something? Because it did seem friendly. Jacobs in character, Cody's doing his thing. You wrote, I believe, about being concerned about Cody and his position. How do you feel with what we saw tonight? John Cena's not in the rearview mirror, but he's not present right now. He'll be gone soon. Does Cody come off to you when you watch a show like this? It's still his company. He's still, I mean, people don't like the phrase, but the quarterback. He's still the quarterback. He's doing fine. How'd you feel about him tonight?
All right, so let's say he still is the quarterback, and if we're going to stick with that analogy, since he wants to, this is now his second massive high profile loss back to back, effectively, right? He lost Crown Jewel, which was losing all the diamonds, and then he lost tonight, right? And now there was confusion because at some point they called it a uh, they called it like the ref has counted off the match or something, but it was a loss for Cody. So now he's got another loss on the books, and he did it by using the very methodology that Cena had been using to win. I think that's important, using the belt to clock Drew in the head, right? That's what did it. Desperation, sure. Availability, yeah. Rage, sure. But I think they're playing into something else. And anytime we see Cody in a darkened suit, it's evidence of something else.
Yeah. I mean, what is that evidence of him? Is him hitting Drew with a belt, is reading into his clothing, is what somebody might read into how he reacted to Jacob Fatu or any of his mannerisms. Do you think that's a sign of just Cody showing, I've got edge, I want to be sure to not seem soft? He has been diminished a bit, I would say, by even in beating John Cena, by John Cena not selling it, not putting him over afterwards. He kind of had to play second to The Rock. He kind of shrunk in that space and paid a price. Is this just part of Cody going, I'm the champ, but I'm not soft. I'm not just a suit wearing, traditional wrestler. I got an edge to me. Or is this pretending and setting the scene for something else?
I think it's probably a little bit of both. Cody has to be hearing, and aware of any kind of criticism of differentiating himself from being Cena. He wants to be the new Cena, but can't be Super Cena, clean cut, white meat babyface in 2025 the way Cena was in 2012, 2013, right? Worlds are different. But we don't.
Or are they? Maybe just Cena was booed for a reason because the world wanted a Cody and they got a Cena.
Oh, that's true.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much WWE's changed. I think the fans have been pining for change for 15 years, and they finally, in Cody, got somebody who doesn't. Whatever it was about Cena that was off-putting in Reigns, it was off-putting Cody. But I'm not ruling out that it's not a change of the times too. I mean, I think we do see fans being more with the program, and for all kinds of reasons we could get into with psychoanalysis of culture.
Sure.
But yeah,
that would be cool though.
Yeah.
But I do think I think they're hedging their bets. They've had significant injuries. We have Seth going down, right, which has changed apparently, if the reports are to be believed. So it feels a little bit like hedging their bets to see, okay, can we sow the seeds for a heel turn for Cody if that's what's needed to propel a story, or can it be played off as edge if we don't need to pull the trigger on the heel turn now, right? He's angry, he's giving into his emotions, it layers his character, what have you. So to me, it feels like they're playing two things at once, waiting to see where the story goes. That's my take.
Yeah. I think, people say Cody wants to be seen. I think in 5 or 10 years, in 10 years, Cody wants to be looked at as a guy who had the run and he's in the conversation for the WWE hype machine to call him the greatest of all time. Cena's not the greatest of all time. WWE can say that over and over. He's not. I mean, There's not really a metric to do it where you can make the case for that. I'm a defender of Cena's positive influence on WWE. There's some negative mixed in there too, for sure. But I mean, Cena just doesn't land in that way. I mean, people, you can have your own personal favorite, but tell me what your criteria is to make John Cena the greatest of all time. Right. Cody Rhodes, I say this all the time, is already a more successful champion than John Cena in many key ways. I mean, he's cheered by the audience who's supposed to cheer him. Cena was booed by half the audience. His matches, I think, are better. Cena rose to the occasion at times. I don't think they're that different. But I think most of all, Cody's been a headliner who has been part of more stadium shows and higher attendance, bigger revenue deals than Cena ever was. Cena, that's what, upsets me about the way Cena treated Cody is he just pat him on the head like, hey, kid, someday you'll be something. It's like he's a 40-year-old who's drawn more than you have. In the last 2-3 year period, he's drawn better than you ever did, John Cena. So, seriously, pay him some respect. He's not 28 or 32-year-old who's just trying to make it. Cody is deep into his run as a established top guy. But I do think Cody, unless Hollywood comes calling sooner, does, like you say, want to be the Cena of the era. And for that to happen, well, Cena's got to be out of the picture. And then, Roman and Brock are part-time enough. I don't think they're getting in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really see another threat to him. Laps fan says, yeah, once Cena's done, the focus will shift back to Cody. And I want Cody to have, we talk about a heel turn. People are going to forever speculate about it, just like they forever did about Hogan turning heel, Sting turning heel. With Hogan, it happened. With Sting, it happened. But it's good. I think it ought to be a while. I think Cody still has a lot more going, and I think tonight shows that. A couple other comments in the chat we can kind of bounce off of.
Sure.
Derek Hubbard says, I could see Cody losing his composure in his match against Drew, which leads to him losing the title. It gives him a new story to tell. And I do think the phrasing, look at, Vic Joseph said, look at those eyes, as Cody was just in a rage. Like, my dog at the dog park. It's like somebody else has a toy he wants. It's like, all of a sudden it's like, he goes, and it's like, I want that. And you play with him and they get super in a zone. Cody was in a zone, it's just like, wow. And they're pointing that out. But hitting Drew with the belt, like, what's the story of what Drew did to deserve Cody hitting him in the head with a title belt? What did Drew do to him?
I mean, the story tonight was Cody just saying, we all know what you did. Don't give me that. Right. And so it was this massive assumption.
So perhaps a false accusation led to Cody doing something violent that cost him a match. I mean, it was, I want to frame it this way too. They were looking for a substitution for Jacob Fatu and a way to get to Cody versus Drew without either Drew or Cody getting pinned. So let's not pretend Cody hitting Drew with the belt is necessarily a very well-planned, deliberate clue laid out there for us to read into. It could have just been a cop-out finish on the fly on short notice to get to where they need to go.
Yeah.
And they would just tell us, hey, come on, this obviously wasn't something we planned weeks for. Don't read into it. We just needed a DQ out to get through to the match. And my leaning still is that. I think they're committed to Cody being a babyface for quite a while longer. But a lot of people are looking for next year for him to join The Rock, and I'm not ruling that out. It could be good.
And I can certainly see it, that it was, hey, this is just the way we're going to get to it. I mean, there has to be a balance between, I imagine, the difficulty of striking the balance from creative of, hey, we have to make these decisions all while knowing people like us are going to be talking about them immediately after the show when maybe they didn't mean for it to be. But it's fun, and it adds to that texture of, well, if he does have a heel turn, we can look back on this moment, and they can look back on this moment and say, aha, see, we planned it, right? So I think it plays well in a lot of ways where, it could turn into something really cool. It could also just be another blip in the SmackDown saga,
Yeah. We've got Ghostface in Twitch. Oops, I just lost him there. Sorry, Derek. Here's how I could see it. Randy attacks Jacob before starting to make his way to Gorilla while Drew's coming out, but Aldis and Cody came out before he made it, so he thought, shit, it might be a little obvious if I come out now, and decides that it ain't worth him risking suspicion being thrown onto him. I mean, but if that's the case, there should be some footage of it. Like, wait, what's Randy doing there? And Sadler version 3 goes, hey, Drew did smash Cody's head through an announce table like a month ago. Yes.
But Cody also essentially got his receipt back.
That's what I'm about to say. Yeah. All right. Chat has more to say about this, and also Jacob too. So let's read a little bit more of these, and then we'll switch to a new topic. Lapsman says Cody stock hasn't dropped, in my opinion. He's just taking a back seat to Cena right now, with everyone focused on Cena's final matches and Rock and Cena possibly trolling each other on Instagram. Then I already read Lapsman going, once Cena's done, the focus will shift back to Cody. I definitely agree with that. I mean, just by definition, it has to. As far as Jacob Fatu goes, Derek Mitchell says Jacob Fatu has lost his aura since saying "I hate you" solo at Money in the Bank. Now he's shaking Cody's hand. Maybe Jacob's injury is a blessing in disguise because he needs a reboot. Todd Martin said that last night on The Fix when we had the breaking news about Jacob, the reports of him being sidelined for an extended period. Then Jacob lost some of his edge. A few too many catchphrase laden promos. I don't know. Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I think he lost a good bit of the mystique that he had, and so I mean, you don't wish time off for anybody that they don't invite or want, but ultimately it could end up being okay for him, if not better.
How much of that do you think is Jacob as a performer overemphasizing what he knows has been working and thus dulling his own brand? Or is it creative taking something organic and making it a caricature?
I
And that,
think I think it's him fitting in to the demands of weekly television
yeah,
character presentation.
I think that'll be tough.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because so many people do it. You know, I mean, so many wrestlers get in that zone of, I'm going to have a catchphrase and say it at the end. I mean, it's not like he's the only one doing it. You got Tiffany Stratton with Tiffy Time and on and on. So, you know, Charlotte did close with woo. I mean, it's just, there's sort of a thing wrestlers do. We want the smoke. I think it's overdone. I get why you do it to a degree. But I also would argue that there's a level of inauthenticity that results from it that offsets some of the benefits. It's especially, I think it's especially damaging, I'll just say, to Jacob, because street authenticity is kind of his whole thing. Yeah. So when it's kind of like when Michael Cole said, "Oh, CM Punk is the pipe bomb throwing superstar," and suddenly CM Punk breaking the fourth wall, going into kayfabe, breaking kayfabe, talking insider stuff. That felt rebellious until Michael Cole gave it the corporate stamp of approval. We have a catchphrase for it now. And so with Jacob, I think it came across like, okay, he's got a catchphrase now that makes him more corporate than we want him to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Adam Kidd said, I agree, Derek. They have fumbled Jacob badly. Derek Mitchell says, I like Jacob when he was on Hinge, but he lost something along the way. So I don't know that that's going to change, though, Chris, because WWE likes their wrestlers have catchphrases. They, it's, as Linda McMahon once said, it's a cradle to grave strategy with our fan base. And we want to appeal to the people who like catchphrases. And that's certainly there's something to be said for that. I just would reserve it for certain people and exclude it from others. And Fatu's one where I'd go, no, we're not going to do that. All right, Derek Mitchell adds, here we go again with Drew McIntyre. Not looking forward to this pairing again. In my opinion, Drew is at his best when he personalizes a feud that evokes an intense dislike for his opponent. Mark Biscotti says Cody has lacked a clear direction or truly hot feud since winning the belt. Both times he's won the belt, honestly. What will you remember from Cody this time? I mean, part of this is the last couple of years, there's been a lot going on with other things, Cena and Roman in The Rock in particular. So, I mean, I want Cody to be the centerpiece babyface champion without seeming like he's the return of CM Punk, the return of The Rock. It's all this other stuff is kind of making it seem like he's the champion, but he's not the centerpiece. And but WWE also has to build up strong heels for him. I was going to say I trust they have that in mind. I mean, maybe trust is too strong of a word, but I figure they do. I mean, I think we'll get some of that.
To me, what his reign is answering is the question, what does it even mean to be a champion within within the universe, within kayfabe, right? Mm-hmm. Because in Sammy's U.S. title run, I think is done a lot of that in the past couple of weeks too, is to make it about somebody who fights, right? Mm-hmm. Not necessarily power, not control. Right. He talks about being quarterback running the plays. He doesn't call himself the coach. Right. Mm-hmm. So to me, there's something interesting to be said about reestablishing the championship as being about winning wrestling matches, period. Yep. Right. But is that good enough for WWE as it currently exists in the ecosystem of television that it has? Right. I don't know.
I strongly believe that every wrestling company needs that foundational structure for whatever they build on top. That is the world title and title defenses and winners and losers is enough. And it is, frankly, everything. It is, there's whipped cream on top, there's a cherry on top, but there's the ice cream, there's the foundation, whatever analogy you want to use. And when you lose sight of that and it starts just being about all the other stuff, then it becomes a lot harder. And then you need blow torches and arson and plastic bags and all that stuff. I mean, that's maybe unfair because that's a whole kind of side genre of kind of the hardcore garbage, weapon
murder
matches. Yeah. But there's something in general, though, it's a lot harder to get people to care about matches when you undercut that being champion, having a champion who wins with integrity, by the way, that should be the baseline, and that's where the heel heat comes from, is if you have a title without integrity. That should be the foundation of everything. And it makes everything easier when everyone is on board with that and remembers that constantly. And then sometimes you can just do a straight up match where, hey, it's enough. Here's a champion. Here's a compelling challenger. You like one, you're rooting against the other, or it's two stars that you like. On occasion, you can make that work. A little bit of that going on in AEW, Smojo and Hangman. People are find the match compelling and interesting. Two careers at a crossroads in different ways, then sell it. So and that was a Hulk. I mean, that was a Hulk Hogan formula. I mean, it was no sell, Hulk up, leg drop, pose. I mean, he did that for years with just a parade of opponents that predated. I've interviewed Bob Backlund about that and Bruno Sammartino about that. They talked about, and Bob wrote about it in his really good book. You'd have a heel. He'd defend against the WWF Championship against a heel. If we drew well, they'd get a rematch. If they drew really well, they'd get a third match. That was the goal of every heel, is to cut good enough promos and be compelling enough for Bruno or Backlund and eventually later Hogan, where you'd get the 3 matches in a row. And that was fine. And then the babyface champ dispatches, and the next heel has been built up in the background in the meantime, ready to go, a turnkey challenger. I really believe in that formula. You can dress it up, but don't lose sight of the fact that has to be there. It is the foundation of everything else working, and it makes all the contendership matches underneath mean more if you protect the champion and you just have heels ready to go. And it also helps if there's an injury to have somebody on the bench ready to step up. Derek Mitchell says, the booking felt stronger when Cody was focused on finishing a story. Since the title win at WrestleMania 40, it feels anticlimactic during both his title reign, outside of feuding with KO and Cena. And that's the other thing. I mean, I was there in Baltimore 1990 in July when Sting beat Ric Flair to end Ric Flair's WWE title reign. It was a pass. I was front row. You can probably see me if you look back at the footage. And it was meant to be a passing of the torch moment. And everyone was excited, like WCW loyalists said, we've got our Hulk Hogan now in Sting. Ric Flair is the 80s. Sting is going to be the 90s, back when the 90s was this futuristic time. Right. And so, it was a huge moment, and the crowd in that Baltimore arena with the rich wrestling history went nuts, but then they didn't have follow-up. Sting was great because Ric Flair was his opponent. Sting was good and very good against great wrestlers, and he was lousy almost always against mediocre talent. He couldn't carry anybody. And so suddenly Sting on top was not Ric Flair on top. He brought energy and athleticism, but his matches just weren't good. And they didn't have good challengers lined up. And that's why they just played hot potato with Ric Flair. And then he tore his, Sting tore his knee ligament. All kinds of things happened. It's a fascinating time. You can, by the way, VIP plug, you can read my coverage of that event and the buildup and the fallout and the excitement of Sting winning and what we were writing about it at the time in back issues of the Pro Wrestling Torch Weekly newsletter. They are available on demand going back to the late 1980s. So it covers the lead up to Sting's win and all of that. You just pick the year you want to read about and go through the issues. We'll put the graphic up again, pwtorch.com/govip. Just fun to see how, history repeating itself in certain ways and how it was covered contemporaneously at the time, not in look back podcasts or people who didn't live through it in real time, but what we were writing about it at that time. So check that out. We'd love to have you as a VIP member, and it's one of the things nobody else can really offer is the type of team coverage that we gave to those events back in the day. And I think Cody can be the Bob Backlund, the Bruno Sammartino, the Hulk Hogan type champion, going full circle back to that. I mean, just keep it simple with him because he's old school enough. He'll know how to make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that to me, again, going back to why we watch this as opposed to something else, right? We can watch shows with better acting, right? We can watch shows with better car collision segments and graphics, but we want something that's centered around people fighting in a square with a certain set of rules that gets flexed and bent every now and then. And that's where that tension lies, that drama lies. We can give ourselves over to it. That's what I do like about Cody. So whether or not there are those flash memorable moments per se, and I think there have been some, by and large, what he's trying to do, I think, is carry the company on the strength of his performances, right? And that's, I think, something that is what you want in a champion, at least what I want in a champion. Yeah.
I also, and this is getting kind of big picture, but Cody is a big part of the closing segment tonight. I think that having, there's like in experiments, a control group, there's the control group and then whatever. So Cody can kind of be that control group, that baseline normalcy around which all this crazy stuff is happening. But things feel, I think crazy is more effective when it seems like there's rules that are being pushed.
Yeah.
And a structure that is being tested. And having a champion like Cody be the guy who's fastidious in everything he does. And they made it his gimmick once, the here's grooming tips, and his clothes and his bus, I'm sure, is as clean as any wrestler bus ever.
Yeah, really.
He looks for big words. He doesn't always use them correctly. That's all happened to us, but he looks for big words to use to seem like he's picking very precise, smart person words in his promos. And he wants to come across as class and taking it seriously, kind of the babyface version of Gunther and his people wiping their feet on the mat before, or the canvas before entering. So when you have that, that's not a flaw that he's, quote, boring and he doesn't have, crazy. He's not acting all crazy. That's the baseline that makes everything else by comparison seem more effective. So there's a lot of benefits just kind of having a basic formula and a guy who's just fundamentally so sound like Cody. Yeah. And I think Paul Levesque is a little bit older than me, but he's an old school guy in terms of he grew up in the territories. I think he knows that's the history, and I don't think he should run from it as much as he does. I think there's something to be said for having the top core of your product be a strong babyface champion who conducts himself well. There's a GM who enforces rules, usually effectively, and heels are trying to unseat him and just make those heels interesting and give us a reason to root against them. Let's do more of that. Jack Green wants to know if Cody is a babyface Nick Bockwinkel. No, I think Cody's more Vern Gagne. I mean, if we go back to AWA, I think it's just Vern Gagne. I mean, you're talking about this, but Nick wore the suit, but and Nick was certainly fastidious in the way he talked in his language. So I get the comparisons, and I'm a huge Nick Bockwinkel fan. But I think Cody's more Vern Gagne. I mean, it's just along the lines of Backlund and Bruno. And again, I think what's old is new again. And I want to see Cody have a couple years of them trying that. You can do all the other crazy stuff around him, but don't call on Cody to do that. Let him just be Cody.
I think so too. The other thing I'll say with the suit, a lot of people talk about the suit, is Cody is a Southerner. Like the suit in the South, where I'm currently speaking to y'all from, right? From North Carolina, the suit means something different. It does not always mean classism. It can mean the kind of respect that one brings oneself to the occasion. And I tend to think that's what Cody does when he wears the suit, is what he's bringing to this enterprise. Now, they could easily transition that to the old fastidious, right? Dashing and all that. But I tend to see it as the Southern sign of respect. Now, I could be wrong, but that's what I get from it. And I kind of like that read.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong. I don't think being fastidious and wearing a nice suit should be a heat generator or should be seen as pretentious or I'm better than you. It's just Cody being professional, That's right. So, yeah.
Look, I got my beard brush right here.
That's very, very. Did you learn from Cody Rhodes?
I did. I watched his tips from those YouTube clips from years ago. Yeah.
It'd be fun to have that version of Cody show up and evaluate how you're doing. All right. Let's turn the page here. We're deep into the show, and let's talk about Sami Zayn. He went to Nick Aldis and said, "Why am I not on the show? I want a U.S. title open challenge." I love the logic here. We talk about logic, and there should be an explanation for things. Any chance you can to make it seem like there's a logic behind the scenes to what's being executed on air, the better. And Nick Aldis did it very well. And Nick Aldis has fastidiousness in him too, in terms of how he carries himself, and the accent, the suits, the look, the demeanor. And he just goes, hey, Shinsuke Nakamura deserves a rematch, but he can't be here this week. He's in Japan. So he's basically saying, I don't want you to defend and lose the title before Shinsuke gets his deserved rematch because he didn't lose fairly. Like he didn't lose last week. So, what happened last week should not be the last opportunity Nakamura has. So it's logical. It's how it's fair. And then Sammy's like, no, I want it. I want a match. The fans deserve it. And Nick gave in. And then we had the tease of Miz, which was well done. Yeah. But Carmelo attacked him. And I like the idea that it is sort of like, well, next in line, next up, who's got next? And here's Ilya Dragunov making his big return. and they go out there and wrestle for about 20 minutes and just have a banger.
God.
And the announcers they were hard selling it, and they were bordering on, okay, I get it, let me enjoy the match without you telling me how much I should enjoy the match.
Yeah.
They walked up to that line, probably crossed it a little, but it was good enough to not. It's not like they're pushing a above average but not great match on us. That was a wonderful, unexpected, 19-minute match with a surprise ending.
Yes.
Dragunov putting on some muscle, looking really good. Sammy putting up a good fight. That was a pay-per-view, caliber effort by those guys, as we say. What did you think, Chris? Talk about it.
Oh, I mean, you can't see it, but above Booker T here is my Ilya Dragunov figure. So obviously, I mean, I exploded. That was one of those moments where I actually like shouted in my house because I didn't expect him to win. Honestly, I expected, okay, this is going to be amazing. It delivered and then some, but I just did not expect them to pull the trigger. So when they did, it was like, wow, they used this open challenge to create basically 2 months worth of weekly suspense that then was delivered upon in this 20-minute slobber knocker, right? So that stuck the landing and then some. And then if they allow Shinsuke Nakamura and Ilya Dragunov to do something similar to what they did tonight, then that will be amazing.
Yep.
So I think there's potential for some seriously well done, well executed, stiff matches if they let the U.S. title kind of be that for a while.
Yeah, I'm sad to see the U.S. title open challenge end. I mean, I would have been happy if it was going longer. But if it's going to end, this is a good way to end it. A surprise return, super talented wrestler. He gets elevated with an unexpected win. It's the type of thing, if you do it every year or two, people talk about it for years. If you burn it out, people don't talk about it because it's done too often. Sadler version 3 in the chat says, this match was amazing. Dragunov is one of my favorite wrestlers. His matches feel like real fights. To that, his covers feel like he's trying to get a pin.
When he pulls their arms.
Yeah, he pulls their arms, shoves their head down, pushes down. Like if you're underneath Dragunov, you need to kick out. You need to leverage your shoulders up. There's no, I got room to do it. I'll do a lazy kick out. And I love when the phrasing sounds bad, but I love when wrestlers show up other wrestlers for lazy bad habits, because wrestlers should look at that and go, I mean, everybody in the NXT roster, men and women who are on the roster, should look at that and go, that's how we make that. Shouldn't be exclusive to Dragunov. And it's a gimmick he tries to pin people and win. You should look like you're pushing down on those people and finding techniques to hold them down. That extra something that he does is great. I complain about breakups of pins where the wrestler interferes from on the top and the ref just stops his count, even though all they did is hit the wrestler doing the pin and the shoulders are still down and they're still covered. Why'd you stop the count? Just scold the wrestler for a failed breakup of the pin afterwards. Break up pins, knock people physically off. And when you see it happen, and wrestlers do it, it's not like I make this up as something. The wrestlers who really have that attention to detail and aren't just high spot merchants, but they're actually want matches to feel real, they really do that. And it jumps out. This is the other version. I was talking to a wrestler a couple weeks ago about this. He's like, Wade, you talk about kickouts and raise your shoulder and all that. But the thing that he looked at as that jumps out to him as sort of a pet peeve is I think a false use of the term pet peeve. Pet peeve, we talked about that a week or so ago. Pet peeve is when you got something that bothers you, but it really shouldn't all that much and no one else, and you kind of understand why others don't. This is just attention to detail, making matches feel better. And his one that he notices and kind of just groans is when covers are lazy, especially in a heated match with high stakes, and that's what this was. So Dragunov, bring it on. Let's give us more of that. A rematch with Sammy, Saturday's main event or whenever is due. Shinsuke is established. He's due a rematch. I don't want to see a triple threat. We're probably going to get one. I just want to see those two as individual one-on-one matches, Chris.
I don't want to see a triple threat. I feel like we've seen too many of those as a way of protecting people, and we all kind of know that's what they're for. So at this point, move on to some other way of protecting the people that you don't want to take a loss. So one-on-one matches between the two, give us matches that have little to no interference. I saw Solo come out. I thought, okay, a cheap thing's going to happen. I liked the way that they didn't allow that to be massively distracting to Sammy. So, okay, but
and he got a move in afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, I would have, this crossed my mind. I bet they had a finish where Sammy got distracted. and then Dragunov won. And Sammy's like, I don't want Dragunov to win that way. I want to have an offensive move in between those. So you can, like, I could imagine Sammy, and Sammy's known for fretting backstage. Oh, how will this make me look? Is this really the best thing for me? And all that. I mean, that's his reputation, pretty well earned. Vince based one of his characters on that, sort of just the nervous guy backstage. He's like, whoa, what's happening? But I could see him also going, wait a second. If we're going to do this, let's do it right. Let's not have. I don't want to look like I lost because I got distracted by somebody who was 100 feet away from me. And the announcers underlined, hey, that it was a factor, but it wasn't the deciding factor a second before the pinfall. Yeah. So they got it in, a little bit of a cop out for Sammy. They didn't need it, frankly, but I don't think it diminished Dragunov's win greatly. But it does raise. I think if he gets a rematch, he should get a clean win, unless they have plans for Sammy to move into the world title picture. And then I understand maybe doing a triple threat and try to protect Sammy a little bit for that.
What's funny is I had the opposite reaction. I looked at it as, oh, okay, this did not diminish his win at all because it subverted our expectations. We thought it would be, he was just going to get his hit. He could get the H-bomb. That was it. But it returned to a fair fight, and I think that's why I liked the win that way.
I think we're on the same page on that. I mean, the idea that it returned to a fair fight, but the announcers, I think it was Corey Graves who goes, "Hey, let's admit here, Solo Sikoa on the stage was a factor in this. So we can't, even if we saw it differently, WWE's story that they're telling us is that was a contributor to it. Yeah,
that's true. That's right.
All right, some more chats here. Sadler version 3 says the match was amazing. Oh, I already said that. His matches feel like real fights. So up next, Standard Deviation said Dragunov looked incredible. What a top-tier performance with a satisfying outcome. Sadler adds, I like Dragunov's new look. He looks more threatening with the muscles and the weight gain for sure. I don't want to, not everybody looks better with putting on bulk, but, I think in this case, Dragunov could use, I think his style and his overall appearance against somebody who's Sammy, who's bigger than him, I think it served him well here.
I think so too. And it makes his moves, particularly the H-bomb, feel like it would have that much more force. Yeah.
Yes. Jack Reeve says, or Jack Reeve, excuse me, says, I was even happier. It wasn't Miz in the match. Then I loved the match. Yeah. Thinking of Sammy against Miz, and then it turns out not to be that makes Dragunov feel even more special.
It really does.
Derek Hubbard says, to me, Dragunov has always had a boyish look, which did not fit perfectly with his style. Tonight, he looked more like a man. Some of this is bulk. It fits his style better. We talk about Fatu maybe benefiting from time off. Seth might. Maybe Dragunov does. This hit the reset button, and he came back with a real fresh look. Goodfella says, so pumped for Ilya to be back. Match was so fun. Sammy always puts on bangers. Mark Biscetti said Dragunov Zayn reminded me of what I originally liked about AEW, fresh feeling matches and a different wrestling flavor. This match brought that feeling back. I mean, if you're WWE, you want to have that. You want to have matches like this to satisfy people who crave this, and it should be part of the formula, and they have wrestlers capable of it. Going back to what I said about announcing, Derek Mitchell says, Graves and Joseph are spreading it on a little too thick with Dragunov. I thought Sammy had a great U.S. title run, but Dragunov title win felt anticlimactic. So little contrary to others. Fair enough. So I'm curious, Chris, how long Dragunov is champ. I'm curious what the follow-up is with Sammy. Is it just he fights to get the title back and we get a rematch or a triple threat with Nakamura or 4-way with somebody else like Solo in there? Or does Sammy just split off and go after Solo? I mean, all of them are viable, and they might try to figure out how to work them all in before the end of the year.
I don't know exactly which way I would go initially, but whatever it is has to be. I mean, this to me is make or break it for Ilya Dragunov, right? He was on the ascendancy, had this thing with Gunther, goes away for a long time. Got a bigger reaction than I expected upon his return, and to see him win, to see the response was wonderful. However, if they fumble it, then he goes into the abyss and doesn't come out, right? That's my sense of him. So they have to give him opportunities to kill it on the mic, to have the kind of promos that we know he can. They have to, I think, give him sustained feuds where we see his power and his ferocity, so that when he loses it, he could bump up to something higher. he'll never be QB1 of the company, but could he have a great run as world heavyweight champion? Yeah. So, again, I don't know exactly what to do, but I don't think it should be a triple threat. I think whatever it needs to cement his power and that ferocity.
Ferocity. I like that. Yeah. All right. Sadler says, yeah, the Dragunov reaction surprised me. He wasn't on the main roster that long before being hurt. That's what surprised he won. Glad to see them pushing new guys. Yeah. Yeah, and Derek Mitchell goes, I'm glad the booking team doesn't fall into the old school trope of booking Dragunov as a Russian villain from the 80s like Ivan Koloff, Nikolai, or Borisukov. Speaking of the AWA, old Borisukov.
That's true.
Yeah, Boris was my neighbor. I got to see his wife shave his head at the dining room table through his window sometimes, and we went to the same grocery store.
Wow, you'd be like, oh, he's getting ready for the match.
He was very, very shy, very much not want to be bothered
weird.
in public. But yeah, I was like, I think he's getting because he's a bald Russian, but he could grow hair. So his wife had shaving cream on. She was shaving his head in front of an open window.
Awesome.
Yeah. Brush with fame, as we used to. Is that still around? Brush with fame, is that a term?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I've had several brushes with fame. They've gone nowhere.
Private Jim Nelson, says Derek Mitchell, the resident chat room historian. Yeah, that traitor Borisukov. Darrell Freeman stops by and says, Sammy losing was wild. I'm kind of happy about it. Now let's see what they do with it afterwards. Yeah. I would have been totally happy with more U.S. title defenses. But you know what? Let me ask this and we'll shift to other things. Did this U.S. title open challenge run, will it go down as in history as a really good? I haven't matched it up, I don't have a big picture macro view of how many defenses he had, how it stacks up against other U.S. Open title open challenges. John Cena's obviously. What do you think?
It has to. I mean, there was I wouldn't say a stink on it, but certainly it was dull. Shinsuke Nakamura's strange run, LA Knight's weird 2 runs that went nowhere. You had Solo's attempt to, I think, legitimize him, which he's doing without the title. So I think it was a title that was going nowhere. And what Sammy's Open Challenge did was reinvigorate it as something worth going out there and going to the mat for, right? So in that sense, I think it did very quickly bring it back up as a prize. May not be the top prize, but it is a prize once again.
Everybody in the NBA plays for the same thing. They want to get a winning record, have a high seed in the playoffs, and win a championship. But there's some matchups that are not defensive battles where it's a low score, or it's the young, hungry team that plays hard defense, runs the court hard, got a deep bench. It's like these guys are hungry and they're excited. Those are really fun games to watch. Yeah, star power is one thing, but those people, as we see with OKC, you can have a team full of stars if you play that way as no names, and then you win a championship and you have this crazy good record, and you decimate opponents, including my poor Minnesota Timberwolves last year. So the U.S. title can be that type of NBA can be looked forward to. It's like the U.S. title, if for whatever reason, and it's sort of meta, it's a book that way, whatever. Sure. But the U.S. title run is given to people who can go.
Yeah.
And that's why we don't get Miz. We get, people who are hungry, either veterans still wanting to prove their place and how good they still are, or up and comers. And so that can be the brand of the US title belt. And it's different than Cody matches.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people want to see a Cody US title open challenge. Cody's wrestling style is different. Cody, it's about grandiosity. Right. It's about the moment, the pageantry. U.S. title is about grit and bangers, and yeah, it's just what we saw tonight. So, yeah.
Is it possible you think that Carmelo Hayes comes in? I mean, he and Dragunov had a title feud in NXT. Hayes was mildly involved in this the U.S. title thing. Remember, he lost his opportunity. Mm-hmm. They're doing nothing with Hayes. Yeah, really. I mean, he had the Melito Miz stuff.
Yeah, I think we'll see more Carmelo Miz, but I could see Carmelo. I think anyone who was touched this U.S. title open challenge is going to, be a factor in what goes on. I mean, Dragunov is a babyface. Carmelo turned babyface, but you could still see them having a really good match.
That would be cool.
A couple comments here. Sadler Vision 3 goes, I love Sammy's U.S. title run, but it wasn't long enough to get the critical acclaim Cena's got. That's why part of me wishes Sammy won. Derek Mitchell comes in with a statistic. Cena had 21 open challenges for the U.S. Championship during his 2 reigns in 2015. The challenges took place between March 30th and October 25th. So April, May, June, July, August, September, October. So 7-month period on Raw and 1 pay-per-view against Alberto Del Rio. So Sammy's wasn't long enough for that to match that. Laps fan says, sadly, I won't remember this Sammy U.S. title run in a few years. I might remember this match with Dragunov, though. And Goodfellas says, yeah, the U.S. title open challenge should open SmackDown some weeks, switch things up. Be interesting if Dragunov picks up where Sammy left off and actually tries to have 24 defenses. If they were ready to move to a different place with Cena, with Sammy, maybe Dragunov is somebody who, hey, bring on a Sammy rematch, Nakamura, Carmelo, eventually Miz, whatever. There's a deep enough roster. Some tag wrestlers who go singles. I'd take a Ciampa or Gargano going after him, for instance. Yeah. So yeah. All right. By the way, speaking of Ciampa and Gargano, they came back. Not a big segment of the week, but they did talk about what they've been up to. They said they just sat back and watched the tag division show that they choke. Would they say choke artists or something like that?
Yeah. And then Johnny Gargano was over there. Yeah.
Yep, they've been laying low, watching everyone else prove their chokers, and so I think they're revving up the tag division again after taking a little break of the weekly segment. So Nathan Frazier and Axiom were backstage. That's who the Guns interrupted. Angel and Umberto were out there. They're always going to lose, though. Right. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm glad they acknowledged the 1-year anniversary of the Guns winning. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was glad to see them because it truly had felt like they were gone. No mention of them, right? They had the sort of big tag clash. They were gone. I can't imagine that they're happy with that unless they just wanted some vacation time. So I was glad to see them back. The match I thought was really good. It wasn't great, but it was really good. Both of those teams could and should do more, I think, on the shows. And we know that, in particular, Los Garza can do really incredible things if they're given the opportunities to do it. So I like the segment, and I'd like to see more. But
Labs fan just says the tag division needs some life ASAP. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's time to re-inject the life that we were getting when Fraxium was sort of on the ascendancy. That felt really vital. And that was just a few months ago, and it's dropped quickly. Yeah.
They seem like they're trying to restart the tag division. Darrell says that. As a couple straight comments here on the U.S. Open Challenge, I'll throw in. Goodfellas says, I love the Open Challenge. I hope they do it on repeat. They could just make, that be a thing. When you win the U.S. title, it's an ongoing tradition. You just always have Open Challenges and kind of make that what defines the U.S. title is different than the Intercontinental title, which is, also prestigious in its own way, but on a different brand.
That'd be cool.
Goodfellas says Javon versus Ilya, please. Yes, please.
Yes.
Goodfellas says Trick Williams is on his way to the main roster anytime. Him and Ilya have a history too. So, yeah.
They would dap up together when they were in NXT. Yeah.
So we have some. There's some things from NXT that can spice this up and maybe keep it rolling. Yeah. All right. Derek says, I know they say it every time that the Machine Guns are on TV as a legacy TNA tag team, but they get little to no reaction from the WWE crowd. Is this a chance of the 1-year anniversary to do something with them, Chris? Is it worth it, or should they just be a good hand? Let's not spend a lot of TV time. They're near the end anyway.
I can't see them being anything other than good hands, simply because they've yet to get a massive reaction. Right?
But can't you give them a personality and a reason for fans to get behind them? They're still super talented in the ring. I'm just, making the case for sometimes you get the reaction that is a result of the push. And have they established why we should bond with them? What they did in TNA in ROH should not be enough for WWE to think, oh, they're turnkey. They're going to get a reaction. Oh, they didn't. Now we're going to bury them. It's your job to introduce them. I say this about AEW all the time. Don't assume knowledge. Introduce acts, no matter how long they've been around. You're a bigger stage. It's a bigger audience. Let us get a better idea of who they are.
Yeah, they haven't given us anything to differentiate the two, right? We don't know anything about what makes either of them tick, what makes them complementary or oppose as tag team, as friends, as partners. Yeah. So in that sense, unless they do that, the crowd's always going to give them the kind of mediocre, oh yeah, these are the guys who we can know that we can watch the match, or if we go to the bathroom, we may not miss too much, right? That's, I think, the sense. But all they'd have to do is give them the opportunity to shine. They've got that kind of punk rock ethos that people are digging lately. They're the kind of like good-hearted bad guys, bad boys, right? Like they're cool. So yeah, they're missing the mark with them somehow.
Cavanti Smalls in the chat says Triple H should do more character development with all of the major tag teams in 1997 or early 2000s. Several teams had purpose. Yeah. The Derek throws in a history note here. The NWA TNT title used to be a 10-minute time limit. Maybe make the U.S. title as an open challenge. I don't. You're not advocating for a time limit, are you, Derek? I mean, you could, but I think you're just saying, hey, some titles have something that's very specific to them. Yeah.
I like
All right.
it.
Yeah. Okay. We had Charlotte and Alexa against Zarya and Sol Ruca, a women's tag team title match. We had Blake Monroe at ringside. There's a lot of moving parts for people who aren't fully established to a lot of the SmackDown audience. I wrote in my report on this at PWTorch.com. Hope everybody's checking that out. That there was a lot of action, but some of the setups were clunky and choreographed and contrived looking. And some of that is just the nature of the moves. But when the move is complex and you have to be in a very unnatural specific position to take a move, you have to be, if you're the person taking the move, you have to find a way to stumble into it. And, like the 619, sometimes wrestlers stumble into perfect position. It looks weird. Other times it looks like there's something that Dom does or Ray does that they know how to get someone in that position. And I think that's what you want, is you want a move that's, I don't know. So I'll just throw to you, Chris. Did you agree with that? I can follow up on that.
It was a weird match. It was certainly the least entertaining of the matches of the night. I found that Alexa Bliss was out for long segments of the match that made the flow feel weird, and so it could never really quite get the rhythm that I think you'd want between those four people, especially since it was payoff to some pretty good setup. It was a bummer to have it kind of feel like you said, clunky. If you're talking about the Soul Snatcher being that move that requires
that's what
picture perfect setup, but and knowing that over the weekend the two of them did a sort of assisted Soul Snatcher that resulted in some NXT injury. Mm-hmm. It's one of those moves that I think sooner rather than later is going to have to leave her arsenal in order for her to really be something more than just the wrestler who does this really cool cutter.
Yep. I mean, there's times when you want to come up with a really cool inventive move, and maybe it's better saved for, some special video game hidden finisher. I don't know. I mean, when the execution is Charlotte to bend over and just wait for this overly complex move, it takes me out of the match. The elaborateness and complexity is not as impressive. It isn't impressive at all if it takes you out of the match feeling like a fight. Mm-hmm. There was a spot earlier with I think Alexa and Ruca one of them shoved the other into the ropes, and it's just like they had to basically run. There wasn't a big enough push. And so that didn't look good. So it wasn't, it needed to be cleaned up. Let's see. OJ Lee says, Alexa took a beating from low level wrestlers. Goodfellas says Bliss was catching some stiff elbows from Saul. Saul is main roster ready, says Goodfellas. Zarya is presented as a strong beast, but seems to fail on a lot of her power moves, NXT included. Sadler says, the Soul Snatcher shouldn't be a move that's used every match. Derek Mitchell says, I thought I was watching Cirque du Soleil with Charlotte and Alexa against Sol and Zarya. Too many stop, pause, and wait to catch their opponent moments. Exactly. So, I mean, again, lots of action. Some was good. It wasn't boring. It just didn't feel like a fight. It felt like, it felt like an exhibition of overly complex moves that if you can't pull it off, keep it more basic.
Yeah. It's funny that the observation about Sol being main roster ready, but Zarya not being ready is that Zarya has been a wrestler. I mean, she was on the indie scene in Australia. I think she went by the name Delta then, and Sol was some kind of acrobat. And it's amazing how people can take to it, right? Because Sol Ruca does those amazing fluid moves, but she needs a little work.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about the way the way Paul Levesque brings some NXT wrestlers up, where it's sort of like it feels like way back there were like series on network TV, ABC, NBC, CBS, and they would have like characters from one show visit another as a rating stunt.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna have part 1 of the show here, but part 2, these people from that show are gonna visit this show, but now to see the finish, you have to go to the other show. I'm trying to think. I think Magnum PI was on like Simon and Simon once or something like, or Bionic Woman and Bionic Man were on each other's shows, even going back to the vintage 70s network eras. I'm sure there's more modern examples too. And that's kind of what this feels like. It's like, and to me, when you get called up prematurely and you don't get a really good crowd response because you haven't really fully given them a full-fledged introduction, you have about half your audience who know who they are. They may or may not care even if they know who they are. And then the rest of the audience is like, I don't know who they are. And now you've put them in a position where they're doing things against top stars and they look green and clunky. And now they're gone for months afterwards. I mean, I would have a harder wall between the main roster and NXT. And anytime an NXT wrestler appears on the main roster, it's only when they're called up and it is a big deal. I think they lose something when they just do these sort of, we have a show we want to tease for Tuesday, or a feud we want to forward, or just guest stars to kind of give them experience. I don't really know what the rationale is, but I'm against it. Anyway, Chris, what do you think?
Seems to me like the rationale is trying to establish NXT as a true third brand, right? And the only way you can have that be the case and have them go up to main roster is if it's not a big deal, is if they're just there, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm with you. Have it be this moment where they have come up. Otherwise, it's just it's like the small sibling show, right?
Yeah.
And it feels small, and it cannot compete with what's happening on the main roster with the presentation, with anything like that. So they're not doing themselves favors by presenting somebody like Zarya and Soruka as equal to Alexa and Charlotte, like whoever commented said. Yeah.
Goodfellas says Zarya's presentation is cool and looks the part of my opinion, but the graps is not there for me. Last event says, Wade, you're spot on with that critique. It takes me completely out of the match when wrestlers wait. The timing has to be right. Timing is the most important thing in the match. There's lots of important things. Timing is one of them, might be the most important. Just making it look like a fight, and when the timing is off, it looks like you're trying to do a pre-planned choreographed spot. And it's even worse when the spot is needlessly complex, because then it looks like you're not prioritizing a move you can pull off. You're just trying to be fancy. And again, it's like pulling a complex, needlessly obscure word out of the dictionary to try to sound smart, and then you misuse it. It's like, nope, that's a fail. Just use a simple word, use it right. Use a simple move, use it right. Don't use an overly complex, fancy move and have it backfire on you and take people out of it. Let's bring Darrell into the conversation. Darrell, always good to hear from you. Can you tilt your camera a little bit? You're hiding behind our logo.
Oh, I am. My bad. I'm sorry.
That's all right. It's good to have. It's good to have our eyes all level. If we're going to be, try to give a veneer of professionalism around here to this YouTube video.
As a funny, I'm just trying to bring it down. I'm trying to hide the forehead a little bit, so you know what I'm
saying. Fair enough.
Hey, but how you doing, Chris, and how you doing, Wade? I was listening to everything that you guys were saying. I want to go back to the Sammy and Dragunov match. I feel like with that match that they had tonight, I want to see what they do after this match, because it seems like they're switching plans up a lot with the injuries that they had, and they're trying to build a War Games match with the MFTs and maybe two people joining the Wyatts, two guys joining the Wyatts and stuff like that. Maybe that's a Sammy and a Dragunov, and you might extend their rivalry a little bit longer, because this was such a unique win from Dragunov to take it from Sammy so fast, because you thought they would at least have this with Sammy for a little longer. I like that they did that with Dragunov coming back and things like that. But when you see what they did tonight, even the aftermatch and everything with it, do you think this was a change of plans? And do you want to see what they do the next couple of weeks? Because you got to keep Dragunov hot. And he's somebody who just coming back off an injury, beating Sami Zayn, when Sami Zayn has beaten a couple of people who's been wrestling week by week. You know what I'm saying? The only person he wrestled that hasn't been wrestling week by week was just Shinsuke, and he got his match interrupted by the MFTs and stuff like that. So what do you think about that and the storyline that he's trying to tell with the MFTs and all of that included with it?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. And I mean, Chris, what do you think? Try to make sense of it because we didn't talk much about that.
Right. Yeah. If Survivor Series is somehow MFT's Wyatt Six, that that doesn't excite me. There's nothing about that would motivate me to spend extra time watching that on a PLE on a pay-per-view, right? So I think they've got to be building to something else. Maybe we saw something of it with the sort of Ray Phoenix came out, like Daryl, you're saying about Sammy and Dragunov getting beaten down. I don't know if they know what they're doing. And I think Seth Rollins' injury probably threw a wrinkle into that. And so they're having to figure out how can they pair other people together so it can be mildly organic by the time we get to the end of November. That's kind of the sense I get is they're figuring it out as they go right now.
Do you think the Wyatts are a lost cause? I'll ask you first. Do you think the Wyatts are a lost cause in terms of fans seeing them as a credible sequel to Bray and the Wyatt family because it's been so start-stop and they've been sort of heelish and then sort of babyface-ish? They're just not – they're more like not spooky but mysterious, but in a way that ultimately isn't well-defined and not threatening. Or are they kind of on the other side of things, they're kind of ramping them up now and there's enough – diversity to the different body types and personalities of the group, and that maybe they can still get something out of this that feels, and it's not like the MFTs are all top tier like talent. I mean, there's
Really?
Jeff Cobb and Tala are not like future WrestleMania main eventers either. So in a way, it is sort of mid card. I don't know that could be a traditional Survivor Series match. I don't think there should be a War Games with them. I'll put it that way. Darrell, your thoughts on that, and then Chris.
Okay, I feel like no, they're not. They're not that. And because they could be better and they could be presented better. I think anybody can be presented better longer as you show them better on TV. And the longer you have time to show them on TV and present them in a way like what they did um with the Wyatts tonight, and they had the promo, then they had them come out. If you continue to do that in a couple of weeks of doing it, you make them feel important. The reason why they don't feel important because you have them do things and then you have them off TV, and then we are a instant gratification type of audience that you have to tell us something now. We need something now. We need something now, and that hurts them. So the long term story that they trying to tell with them, it hurts when you're not doing it week by week.
Chris, what do you think?
I really like the observation of us being an instant gratification people, and I think that's really astute when we're thinking about how they're booking in response to all these injuries, how they're telling these stories, right? Uh, I what concerns me about, let's say, the MFTs and the Wyatt Six is you had the Wyatt Six be built up as this wild, ethereal threat, but specters of a kind of holy vengeance, right? When they initially came out, they were exacting revenge on the people who betrayed their family. And I think the story that they were trying to tell of these people who were broken, but they came together to rise above their brokenness. That was kind of cool. But now what it feels like is an imitation of that, where they aren't developing the characters any longer. They aren't telling the stories of how they are evolving. We get Dexter Loomis giving extraordinarily wooden promos. And so them standing there holding the belts in the ring, facing off against, you know, the MFTs just feels to me like bad community theater when what we really want for the tag belts is to use a phrase, right? Like we want something more um, literary, cinematic, right? Something stronger. Yeah.
And you have to show that you're cognizant of the fact that Bray Wyatt was amazing and first at being a Wyatt,
Yeah.
and Bo isn't bringing something distinctly his own that doesn't have to be as good, but at least it's original. It
Yeah.
just feels derivative. He's not doing all the stuff Bray did, but he's also not bringing something that's uniquely him, that's real tangible, that anyone goes, oh, you could have like. Ideally, there'd be a debate. Did you like Bray and what he brought to this character, or do you like what Bo does and what he brings to the character? But Bo doesn't bring a lot to it. I am a fan of Bo Dallas outside of the comparisons to Bray. I think he's fine. I like him. I think he should talk, not wear a mask. I think he's suitable. But you're following in the path of Bray, and so there is inevitably going to be comparisons to that. And it just isn't. It hasn't been consistent. He's not more sinister. He's not more threatening. He's not more intellectual. He's not more manipulative. He's not more two-faced. Like there's nothing you go, oh, Bo is more this than Bray. And I don't, and I think he's capable of it. I just don't think they set out to figure out what that is and then to amplify it. And then, yeah, the community theater thing, you don't want wrestlers in any faction looking like they have friends in high places, but they're not good enough to be singles wrestlers. So we just throw them out there in funny outfits to stand in the background. You don't want a faction looking like it's people who they don't really have the heart to fire, but they don't have anything else for them. And there's a little bit of that vibe going on with both actually a little. I mean, MFTs have that a little, but certainly the Wyatt Six do overcome that. And I'm not even saying it's true. It just comes off that way. Like take advantage of the strengths of each of the characters and put more time into it so that when they stand on the ring apron and they're staying opposite of MFTs, you get a holy shit chant from an audience and they're like, whoa, this is amazing. And it just wasn't ripe for that.
Right.
Yeah. Darrell, anything else?
I would challenge you, Wade, on this right here, and I want to hear what both of you guys say. I'm gonna challenge both of you guys. With Bray, not with Bray, but with Bo. How they did him tonight, where they had him come on the screen and he said the words that he said.
Mm-hmm.
Now, WWE is so quick with how they have to book because they have so many pay-per-views and Saturday night events coming up, and they seem like they're taking what they should do long term and cutting them up in 2 week spans and stuff like this. If you took the time with the Wyatts, who need to be built on a long term basis, they don't never need to build like if it's a pay per view in May, they need the next pay per view they need to be in. It's not May, June, July. They need to be in July, and you need to continue to build them week by week. So with what Bo Dallas did tonight, they should build off of that and build up the interaction that him and Solo would have. And if you build that up, that will build Bray up, that will build the Wyatts up. That'll even build with what's her name leading the faction while he's not there as
Nikki.
well.
Yeah.
Nikki, yeah, they'll build up Nikki leading the faction while he's not there, and that's something that we're not getting with that. I understand the talk with the Wyatts and how they're seen like they're actors and studio and this and that. But if you play to the strengths more than you play to the weaknesses, because right now they're playing to the weaknesses than the strengths, because the reason why you got the hold the shit chant from the fans, and excuse my language, but the hold the S chant from the fans is because of the Bray Wyatt promo and them coming out and standing face to face. And the fans was expecting Bray Wyatt to not Bray, but Bo to pop in at any time to finally meet up with Solo, which it hasn't happened. If they did that, what did you feel like that would change with the Wyatts? Both of you guys feel like.
Chris, I'll let you go first.
Yeah. Before I answer that, Darrell, I want to go back again to that instant gratification comment because you then said something else I think is actually awesome. Like they can't take the time to develop the characters the way we want them to if they are trying to instantly gratify us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because then it's just moment after moment, flash after flash. And if that's how you tell your stories, then there is no need to make them feel nuanced, right? And so
Hmm.
the best that the Wyatt Six have ever been was that period on Raw before the injury happened, where they were they were menacing and they cast a shadow over the whole thing. Now they feel just like a group of people who are cosplaying while trying to get some gold, right? And that's not what they should be if you're going to have them at all. Um,
Yeah.
so having Bo Dallas face down with Solo might make it feel more like a big conflict, but I'm not sure that that would even really solve the bigger issue that I'm still having with them.
I think at some point too, don't want to be so cute with the language that it goes over people's heads. It doesn't land. And like, what is Solo doing that is upsetting Bo Dallas? Bo says, what do you say? Watch your back. Will you be comfortable with what happens if you turn around?
Mm.
Yeah, Darrell, you want to jump in? I don't want to lose your thought. Go ahead. I see you signaling.
I got you. With the feud with the Street Profits, he said family. He said that you're not guys are not real family. If they played that more into it, you will understand why he was saying that with Solo.
Yep.
Solo saying the MFTs are family.
Yep.
So that will be the reason why. So we're not getting the connecting plugs to everything. That's why we're saying what we're saying about the Wyatts. And I agree with you, Wade. They're not doing that. So that's why we having to presume what they're trying to say. But if they did that, we wouldn't have to do that. But because that's what they plan off of, but they're not introducing us to that in a whole.
Yeah, Bo said it appeared on the big screen, said you can knock, but are you prepared for what's on the other side?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have an emotional reaction to that other than, I guess they're going to be standing behind them. So, yeah, you want to tap into something. What is it about what Bo is pointing out about Solo that delights fans because Solo's irritated and exposed by it, or that makes people root for Bo because he stands for something that's more authentic and not phony or whatever, manipulative. So, yeah, there should be something at the core of what the Wyatts are doing, but they were, I use the phrase, creatively abandoned. I mean, they were presented, there's all this buildup, and then they're sort of creatively abandoned. And I know, Bray had the reputation of overthinking. Paul Levesque talked about that in the Bray documentary. We'd decide on something, and then Bray would spend a whole week, and who knows what state of mind, conjuring up new ideas. And he'd show up and go, I want to do everything different. And everyone's like, we don't have the bandwidth to restructure everything that we agreed to last week. I mean, a little more granular in the detail of it, but he basically painted a picture that life was like that sometimes with Bray, that he'd just go, this is great. Week later, 2 weeks later, I want to do this different. I've been in my world imagining all these other things. With Bo, you don't get the sense that is that person. Maybe it's healthy for him, but also if he is, that WWE's entertaining it. It's just, but there should be more depth to the Bo character and a more clear repeated motivation for what's going on here. There's still time for that, by the way. I mean, they could just do that next week and it'll be fine. It's not like it's too late. But if what they're showing so far is a thought that if we have these MFTs and masks and spooky masks, and then we have the Halloween extra, the Halloween or haunted house extras, that's enough. And it's like, it's enough to be lower mid card and not get a crowd reaction. Are you aspiring for more? If you are, put a little more nuance into it, and that'd be nice. Drell, anything else you want to bring up?
Okay.
You know what? Pause 1 second. I did that, but I want to throw a comment or two up from the chat just because they're coming on. Derek says, with all due respect, the Wyatts don't connect with the audience. They feel like a group that would be better suited for a Halloween theme park performance. And Goodfella says, I think the live audience still pops for them, but they have no story to care about. Goodfella says, Wyatt's not putting out social media messages that need decoding lost a core of the IWC also. Yeah, I think those were the main ones. Related, yeah. So anyway, go ahead, Drew. I just wanted, before we got past the topic, I want to throw that out.
Okay, just to talk about those comments. I think one thing as fans, and when we come in here and we speak with you, Wade, we have to overlook the fan reaction and stuff like that, because when we say there was no fan reaction, you wouldn't get the holy ass chant that we got tonight if it really wasn't no fan reaction to the people in the group that you seen coming out there. So that contradicts anything that anybody say or I would say in the chat because they get that every time that they come out, they interrupt somebody. So we have to overlook that when we talking about the story they're presenting because one reaction doesn't make up for the story that you tell and the interest that you can draw with those people. So that's one thing that we have to say is that right there. Now, another thing that I want to talk about is what they did in the main event with Cody and Drew. I understand now with Jacob Fatu is injured, whatever injury that he has, that was reported out there, and they played into it by him getting taken out in the main event before the main event tonight and stuff like that. But I'm going to give you two different things, and I want to hear what you guys say tonight with the main event, and that you could tell they probably was going to a Jacob Fatu and Cody match down the line in him being the number one contender. Drew, you can tell how they did things that he's just gonna be a hangover match or whatever, and they're gonna move past him. Now, I want to see. Do you wish if without the injury, do you see something bigger that they could have built? Maybe them joining together and joining a war games type of match where they was on the same team, but it was conflict, and because they after the Survivor Series they have no more pay per views till Rumble, so that match could have happened in Rumble, and you could have built more into it. That and also with all these injuries that we're having, Cody, you can see him as a main event of WrestleMania. You just have to build somebody up to him on the level as WrestleMania. But on Raw and that title, I know people want to say maybe Braun win the title and stuff like that, but I don't think he's a guy that you can see as a WrestleMania main event as how WWE present the WrestleMania main event and people coming up and craving for that main event and following the story to that main event. And I don't think you can put him in a story that interests people because he's right now point blank. He's just a spear and a run around the ring guy that hypes people. So do it look like we having trouble in the future because it's about to be WrestleMania season because after SummerSlam they have no more matches until no more PLEs until Rumble. Are you seeing something that could conflict something, and do they need to start not hot shotting main events, but hot shotting somebody to build a story with on both brands on SmackDown and Raw to hit that top? Those are the two things that I want to say.
Chris, throw you first. What? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like the way your mind thinks, Terrell. Man, you've got some good insight. Yeah, I tend to agree that it feels a lot of what they're doing is just trying to figure out what's going to fit to make the best WrestleMania possible. Because it feels just like so much again has to be scrambled because of a Seth Rollins injury, right?
Yeah.
And I think inevitably the Cody loss at Crown Jewel and the Vision ascendancy would have circled back around somehow. With Braun Breaker, I don't think he's ready for the title uh, because there needs to be more than just a fast spear and some ticks. And I love Braun Breaker, right? But I don't think he's ready to carry that brand forward. Um, I don't know who is honestly over there. CM Punk seems to be the logical choice, but it's tough to figure out a way. Oh, go ahead.
No. I thought you were trailing off. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, I was gonna say it's tough to figure out a way forward through this when so many things are still are still variables.
Yeah, I wasn't meaning to interrupt, but mostly underline what you're saying, and I think what you're wrapping up there, and you were, which is, I have a job, and my job is to not solve WWE's booking problems or forecast one very specific particular path they can take when I think there's a good handful of paths they might take. And so I'm willing to sit down and let it play out. There's times where I'll game it out, just like, okay, they could do this, they could do that. There are so many moving parts, and part of it is Levesque's booking. It doesn't follow enough of an established pattern yet, where I don't want to say it's wasted time, but it's kind of like, if you're watching Price is Right and you want to sit there and freeze the camera as the ball is dropped to decide where the Plinko ball is going to land. There's no way to know. Like, you have no idea. It's going to bounce off a bunch of pegs and it's going to land somewhere. You can sit here and talk about all the possibilities, but it doesn't mean you should have any confidence. They're just not. It's not a predictable situation. And then you throw in the Seth injury, bunch of mixed messages. Is Rock going to be back? Is he not? Is Cody turning heel? Is he not? Is CM Punk turning heel? Is Bronson Reed going to turn on Breaker or vice versa first? Or is that way down the line? Where does Brock Lesnar fit in? It's exciting because there's all these different moving parts, but there's something about having so many possibilities that takes a little bit of the fun away from it, because it's more fun to predict something that feels like if you put thought into it, you'll come up with one or two good best case scenarios. But Paul Levesque's booking is kind of like predicting where the Plinko ball is going to land right now. And they may pull a couple pegs out, in terms of like Seth being gone or Brock being available or not available or whatever. So I'm punting, I'm copping out on it. Darrell, I don't know. I guess I just sort of, I'm going to watch it play out. I think when we get a little further along the line, I'll start engaging in that. I just think it's a little too far out, because I think there's a lot of possibilities for where all the top players end up right now. Jason D from Australia chimes in the chat. Saturday Night's Main Event screws up everything from a pacing point of view. It'd be great to end it on Cena's last match. No more Saturday Night's Main Event. So I was thinking about that coming in to SmackDown. It's like, it's just one thing after another. They're promoting Saturday Night's Main Event, but they also have to promote Survivor Series. They've got NXT specials. There's layering on top of layering. And there's something comforting, and I think booking-wise, structurally more palatable in terms of pro wrestling storytelling when you've got roughly 4 weeks between major shows and there's a payoff. There's the fallout the next day, on the next week, a reset, and then you get 3-4 weeks of storylines. It doesn't mean everything starts in that month. You get things that are ramping up in the background. But when you have all this stuff going on, we're going to throw NXT talent in and plug that, and we've got free specials. We got our traditional pay-per-view titles, the names of the shows. I mean, it becomes harder to book. It's not all bad, but it's more difficult to book. It's more difficult to predict. And we got a couple Saturday Night's Main Events coming up, Survivor Series. We got whatever. I mean, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of masters that Levesque is serving, a lot of cups he has to fill with content. And so that changes the pacing of it, where when there's one big event, the big matches are going to be on it. And here they're spreading it out among other events. So it is what it is, but we're a little too far out, Darrell. But I think even with Seth's injury, obviously that changes quite a bit. But I mean, they have, I think, plenty of ideas in mind, and probably something they've already worked out, and they know where they're going. And we'll look back and go, yeah, they knew where they were going, but they didn't want to show their hand in October.
I would say this. I would love to see them dive more into stories and telling more stories with more people. And since they know they have short time building pay-per-views, like whoever was on Saturday night, the main event on November the 1st, that should have been built out 8 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And then you finish that up. Yep. And every pay-per-view or PLE or Saturday night's main event, those matches are built out 8 weeks in advance and stuff like that. And getting back to, I understand what you're saying. We shouldn't have to be building out, helping out WWE with their cards and stuff like that. They should figure it out themselves. But it's just interesting to look at it and say, because right now you just had 2 major injuries. I'm pretty sure Seth Rollins was going to be important for the next year and a half, maybe a year. Yeah. And maybe Jacob Fatu was probably going to be more important on SmackDown for the next 4 to 3 months, because we already seen Drew and Cody. Drew just lost the title, our title match to Cody a couple of weeks ago. So it's like he had to pretend that he's doing something interesting by taking out Jacob Fatu to get that match. And and how they presented him tonight on the screen and with Cody dominate coming at him with a suit on. He beat him up with a suit on. You had your wrestling gear on. He had a suit on, and he's beating you up. I don't know if you ever punched or tried to move or pick up boxes with a tight button-up T-shirt on. That's kind of hard. I'm an
Yeah.
IT guy, and I have to wear button-ups and stuff like that, and getting down on the ground and trying to move my arms everywhere. Hey, that's so difficult at times. You get frustrated, and I just be want to unbutton my shirt and take it off and just go ahead and do what I need to do. So, but that's all I'm just saying is
All
like
right. Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. I want to get wrapping up here pretty quick. Drell, any last topic you want to introduce quick?
Oh no, that was all that I had
Yeah.
to say.
Awesome. Yep. Good topic. Good conversation. Thanks, Drell. Always good talking with you. Enjoy your
Good
weekend.
talking to you guys too.
Yeah, man. Good to see you.
Good fella in the chat says balancing a show for instant gratification for the live crowd and long-term story building is tough for sure, but your inventory is loaded.
Yeah.
Chris, anything else from tonight's show you want to comment on, bring up that we didn't hit yet?
No. Tiffany Stratton, though. What happens to her? Where's she going?
Yeah, it's always interesting when someone loses and how they sell it. Like AJ's like, I would have rather won, but it was cool. It was cool facing Cena. Cody talking about what happened with Seth. What was his
got him dirty, the acknowledgement of it.
Yeah, he said, I don't think we ever have to be in the ring together again. That was he always gets a little meta in things. There's something else he said about Seth beat him at Crown Jewel, but I don't feel we have to be in the ring again. So yeah, I mean, sort of accepting it. And Tiffany was just like, hey, look at my record. I'm proud of my record. Her quote was, "One outcome doesn't define me," and then they just shifted to Kiana. So I like when they own and acknowledge what happened. They don't pretend it didn't happen, but they also don't dwell on it, and we're moving on, and it's fine. I'd be a hypocrite to say that you make a huge deal out of it because I say all the time, the best NFL teams lose. They almost never go undefeated. Super Bowl winners usually have, more often than not, 1 or 2 or 3 losses in the season. So it's okay to lose. It's not something you have to you want to be disappointed. You want the agony of defeat, some more than others if it's a rival. But if it's a respected peer, another champion, in the case of the Crown Jewel title matches, there's no shame in it. Just go, I wish I would have won, but I'm still proud of my effort and I'll get them next time. I mean, so that's fine. But yeah, I mean, she's going to face Kiana James and then Julia, I guess. So that's what's in the lineup. That's what's in the pipeline.
Mind, if we get Cody and Drew again, Drew has to win. Otherwise,
I know that's tough.
Otherwise, he's officially the Dolph Ziggler of Triple H's era, right? Is it possible, or that there is any kind of like vindictive booking happening? Because it seemed that Drew was the Rock's guy based on some posts that were made around WrestleMania 40, if you recall. So, I look at that and I say, what's happening with the decisions being made and how this character is presented?
It's
confusing.
Forever a mystery. I mean, it is, because Drew has so many assets, but he doesn't seem to have friends in power looking out for him to be a top guy. I mean, he's seen as you're almost there, but you're not quite there. And it could be an evaluation of his character and his promos. It could be they judge crowd reactions and go that we just don't quite know what his character is, but he's really good to be visiting main events, but we just can't go with him as our top guy in either brand. And they have it's an honest booking assessment. So it could be politics. It could be there's always just somebody else who's just a little bit better, and it pains them. It pains them not to push Drew, but we can't not push Punk. We can't not push Cody. We can't not focus on Cena. We can't not do this thing with Rock. We can't not do this with Roman. Can't do it with Lesnar. And Drew's just kind of, he's the Clyde Drexler of WWE. The guy, the great player of his era who could never unseat Jordan. He went to the finals with the Portland Trail Blazers, but he couldn't unseat Michael Jordan. And Drew might be, that guy. Or Charles Barkley, or whoever you want to point to. Yeah. Anything else, Chris?
No, I'm excited for the future.
Me too. Cool. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Again, tomorrow after AEW Wrestle Dream. We will have our post show, and I'll be recording a VIP roundtable with Todd Martin and Rich Fan. You can get access to that on the VIP podcast feed only with a VIP membership. PWTorch.com/GoVIP. Chris, have a great weekend. Always good talking with you.
too,
And
brother.
we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Chad. Thanks, callers. Thanks, everybody. And we'll talk to you next time also. And go check out the AW preview show that I did with Eric Roll and the TonyCon Q&A over on the Blue Logo Show. Search Wade Keller to subscribe to that. And we'll talk